We live in a twilight world. Let's do a quick recording. Let's close the windows. Turn off the engine. So if anyone's thinking about starting a podcast, I mean, not that you should, like I said, like you should be getting off the internet as much as you can. The internet is the problem. But nevertheless, if you are starting a podcast, yeah, you don't need £1,000 microphone. You don't need a studio. Use your car, man. Your car is like, with the windows up, your car is naturally soundproof and creates a good kind of a sound room. So that's it, People ask me, like, Les, like, how do you do your stuff and that? I've just got a cheap iPad 9 that I bought for secondhand, sitting over my steering wheel, and that's it. Park your car somewhere nice and quiet, and away you go. Close your windows, away you go. I've got this little mouse here. It cost me £10 from Argos, which I use as my little pointer. Here we are. It's Bluetooth. Yeah, man, you don't need to spend money on anything. I think that's really, what I'm good at explaining is, or showing or proving, is that you don't need a lot of money in this matrix to get by. You can reject materialism and have a good life. You will be a lot richer in charisma and adventure and possibilities and all that kind of stuff when you're not chasing silver and gold and materialism and pussy for us men, or dick for you girls. Yeah. Yeah, man. So anyway, I digress. This conversation is probably going to be a follow-on from my recent trip to CERN. Yeah, man, I went to CERN recently in my Illusion Warfare Report 9, I think it is. Yeah, 9. And I done a bit of a hit job on CERN because I don't like the way that CERN exists in the minds of so many people, especially the conspiracy world. They put so much energy into a mythology of CERN, and all this kind of crazy shit they're allegedly doing without actually asking the question, like, does it even exist like we think it exists? And of course, it was perfect timing because we had the Great North American Eclipse, and CERN was being turned on for the first time ever at the same time as this eclipse, and I was there at that moment when CERN was allegedly being turned on and the eclipse was allegedly happening in America, and I proved there was nothing going on. Now, when I say nothing going on, I'm talking about the hysteria, the madness, the magic circle that is being created by all these kind of TikTok conspiracy theorists that just keep saying shit, making wild predictions, spreading fear, all for clicks and likes, or because most of them are just Westworld robots that just do it because that's their programming. Yeah? And then when something doesn't happen, they don't ever come forth and apologize. We're now in the fourth wall industrial revolution, and they want you in some way, shape or form sat in front of the black mirror. Yeah? So all of these eclipse TikTokers and goofy truthers and fake conspiracy theorists that keep screaming that the sky is falling every fucking other day and saying outrageous things like a portal was going to open above CERN, that there's a temple to Apollo below CERN and that's going to open and Satan's going to come out, or Baal's going to come out. Yeah, America was going to split into two. There was going to be a rapture, and 140,000 people were going to be only left here on Earth. All this scaremongery bullshit. That's what I'm against. Just to be clear, if you, on your own personal journey, have had a change since the eclipse, that's golden. There's a big difference between you having some sort of change within yourself as opposed to a magic circle being formed by Westworld robots claiming that something mad is going to happen and it doesn't. There's a big difference, yeah? Anything that's personal to you that happens in your life, that stuff is golden. That stuff is magic. You should. It's healthy to be keeping track of that stuff. This is my whole thing with Mandela effects, which kind of ties into CERN, right? With Mandela effects, I don't like the general kind of topic when lots of people talk about it and it's goofy things like Fruit Loops and Berenstain Bears and all this kind of shit. That's just the same topic being regurgitated by these fake truth or conspiracy people that are only interested in selling a podcast or getting people to click and like their stupid TikTok videos. They're not interested in seeking truth. But what I call personal Mandelas that happen in your life, i.e. for me, I'll give you an example. For me, I've got a street I call Mandela Street. I've walked down it 100 times. Yet every time I walk down it, I keep seeing a new building or a bush that wasn't there or a shop that wasn't there has now appeared, or that building used to be white and now it's been painted purple, yet I never saw scaffolding get put up and any painters working there, you know? They're personal Mandela effects to me, and that no one else can really say they did or didn't happen. That's my own timeline shifted, my reality shifting, or it's me just losing the plot and getting dementia very early. I don't know. Personal stuff, you've got to keep track of. Mass hysteria, the masses getting pulled in, recruited into a magic circle and dancing around that magic circle, conjuring up a fiction, energizing a narrative, that's not good. That's what I'm combating. So just to be clear about that. Because I've heard a lot of podcasts lately where people are kind of like dropping it in. Yeah, stuff as it, and it feels kind of personal to me because I called it a nothing burger. It's a nothing burger regarding the crazy shit they were saying about CERN. Yeah, about portals opening above Geneva and so on and all this kind of shit. Rituals going on with the Illuminati and all this kind of stuff. None of that shit happened. Yeah, you can't even really prove that CERN exists because you're not even allowed near it. So anyway, and this conversation is probably going to offend a lot of people. But hey, I do that a lot, right? I offend people. I piss on their parade. And yeah, I'm probably going to turn the comments off for this one because I know that Abrahamics get very offended. So just got two pictures here. CERN and the church. And I'm not picking on Christians, I'm picking on no one in particular. I'm just using the church, but really I'm talking about all of the Abrahamic religions, okay? Now, you can see these are the same things, right? People in costumes. A theatrical set with set dressings. A theatrical set with set dressings, yeah? This is the Abrahamic religions, and I'm basically saying that the atheist scientism is the exact same template. Well, not the exact same template, roughly the same template. In the Abrahamic religions, you've got your priesthood class. They're the ones that can talk directly to God, and you talk to them, they talk to God. They're telling you that the Abrahamic God is real, and they'll be telling you what to do, and they're your middleman. Same here. They're telling you there's particles and atoms and God particles and stuff. This is your priest class, the scientists that are, you know, the middleman between you and this fiction. Okay? It's the same thing, okay? It's the same bullet points. Now, I'm sure that these priests really do believe in what they believe in. I'm sure these scientists really do believe in what they believe in. But ultimately, you know, if you ask them a question, they will just give you a load of gobbledygook bullshit that means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's just gobbledygook bullshit. And, you know, if you've been tracking CERN or following CERN on Twitter or looking at CERN videos, it's all of that wink language of, yeah, there's this thing that exists, but it's invisible. And we're looking for that. It definitely exists, but it's invisible. But we haven't found it yet, but we're looking for it. It's no different than these guys saying, yeah, God exists, but he doesn't want to talk to you. He's too busy. He talks to us, and you've got to talk to us. Blah, 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 blah. Same fucking things. Now, of course, you know, the Abrahamic religions have done a lot to push us into the reality we're in today, right? Over here in Europe, we had pagans, you know, and pagans were a different breed of human. They were at one with nature. They believed in many gods. They didn't really believe in rulers. And of course, they wouldn't put up with things like paedophiles and murderers and people coming along being kings, right? That's what they would human sacrifice a paedophile. They found a paedophile in a village. He would get thrown off a cliff, given to the gods. Gods, you deal with him, throw him off the cliff. Now that Abrahamic religion that was in the Middle East was very successful in conquering the Middle East. It made very submissive men. And where you have submissive men or submissive villages or villagers, it gives a certain parasite class the ability to start capitalizing on that situation. So you couldn't, when it came to these evil beings that are trying to conquer the world, these jinns or whatever you want to call them, the hidden ones, their worst nightmare is people that are pagans. And I'm talking about real pagans, like Viking pagans, like Anglo-Saxon pagans, European pagans. I'm not talking about this new comical version of a pagan that you see today, which is basically a fat girl who's wearing a fucking pentagram, who calls herself a Wiccan witch. Yeah? Or people that go to a cosplay thing dressed up like the TV show Vikings and all that kind of shit. I'm not talking about this comical cosplay thing going on today, where people call themselves pagan and then listen to Marilyn Manson. I'm talking about the real pagans that existed before the Abrahamics came around. So, of course, that's what the Roman Empire was about. That was the hidden reason behind the Roman Empire. They wanted to go to every corner of Europe and delete the pagan way of life, because it was a threat. Biggest threat. People that live off the land are at one with nature and they don't want to put up with rulers. They will not put up with paedophiles. They will not put up with murderers. They will not put up with kings. They're not scared of death either. Pagans are not scared of death. Yeah? And that's why they were so fearsome and so warrior-like. So that had to be smashed out. So that's why the Roman empires were so obsessed with Britain. Because you think they had most of Europe. Like, why were they so obsessed with Britain, which is very, very hard work for them to conquer? Not just the land, it was the weather. But they still relentlessly went for Britain. Okay? And for the most part, they did their job, right? They inserted the Abrahamic religion. And as we all know, what they say is the Roman Empire became the Catholic Church, yeah? They got rid of their military garrisons and replaced them with churches. And they went on through that direction, conquering people's minds with religion. Now, this is not to offend Abrahamics. If the Bible or Islam or Judaism helps you in your life and makes you a good person, then of course you should use that. I'm talking on a mass scale when it's being forced upon people and when an opposition is being deleted off the face of the earth. That's not good, man. To be honest, I think until we kind of invoke our warrior pagan ancestry back within us, we're kind of always going to be in a shit situation. So yeah, man. And what's funny, what's going on right now in the world is a lot of the kind of truth or conspiracy folks seem to think that the Bible or the Quran or the Torah is the solution to globalism. When in fact it was probably the first milestone in getting us towards globalism. It was probably the first version of globalism was the Abrahamic religion being pushed upon everyone. So it's very weird that people think that Abrahamic religions are the solution when actually they were clearly part of the road that took us here. Yeah. And yeah, man, back to CERN. I usually do like a follow-up kind of little documentary following up a illusion warfare report. But I don't know if I really need to. I don't know if I can really bother. Like, CERN to me is up there with NASA, it's a giant hoax. You could almost get this picture. You could probably do the same picture with a NASA rocket behind and a bunch of NASA scientists standing there, yeah? Theatre set, costumes, people's belief in it is what gives it life, yeah? It's all about people believing in something. And to get people to believe in something, it helps if you create live action theatre that backs up that fiction. So that's my thoughts on CERN. And yeah, man, like I said, if you had a personal change in life after the eclipse, then don't be offended by what I'm saying. You should not ever be offended by what I'm saying. I'm talking generally speaking. I'll be honest with you, I've noticed that the last couple of weeks, something's very off in the ether. And I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but the vibe is very off. We're having terrible, terrible weather here in the UK. Fucking freezing for this time of year. And I just think back to 2020, right? This time of year, when we had the lockdowns, and obviously there were no airplanes in the air. It was glorious weather. It was summertime already. I remember because I got arrested towards the beginning of April for being out sunbathing on a beach in lockdown. Spent a night in a cell. And then eventually, because they couldn't really prosecute me for being out, they tried to prosecute me or convict me for having an axe in my car. These scumbag policemen, instead of just admitting that they, wrongfully arrested a guy or they shouldn't have arrested the guy for being out in lockdown, they just, in the UK, the British police, they just go down the list of things they can get you for. So during my arrest, they found my car keys, they unlocked my car, and yeah, man, because I wouldn't comply. I wouldn't give them my name. I wouldn't give them my address. They kept threatening to arrest me for not giving my name. And I kept, saying, all right, so look, if you think I've committed a crime and arrest me. They called for backup. 4 of their mates came with the yellow guns, the taser guns, or stun guns, or whatever they are, them yellow fucking guns they have in the UK here. That didn't work, intimidating-wise. And I kept saying to them, look, if you think I'm committing a crime, arrest me. And they're like, if you don't give us your address or your name, we're going to arrest you. Bam, they arrested me. Night in a cell. Yeah, let me go. And then usually they have to, within 6 months, decide whether they're going to prosecute you or not, or attempt to prosecute you. And literally a day before the 6 months ended, a letter came through the door and said, yeah, we are going to take you to court over possession of an offensive weapon. So, yeah, man. And that's how I know, all this kind of freeman of the land shit, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in reality because the police are too stupid to know what you're talking about. It just winds them up. And they'll just, over here in the UK, they'll just escalate it. To the point where they'll just, like I said, they'll just go down the list. Everything's a crime in the UK. So they might not be able to get you on the initial thing they arrested you for. They will just go down the list until they find a criminal act and do you for that. Because they will never back down and say, yeah, sorry, man, like, we've done wrong here. That will never happen. They'll just go down the list. For example, they might arrest you for having a street fight. And then, they can't really, actually arrest you for what's happened. So they'll take you back to your car. And then they'll start inspecting your car and going over your car. Looking for weed inside your car. Looking how bold the tires are in your car and all this kind of shit. So the initial reason they pulled you over or got you didn't work. They'll just go down the list until they find a crime, and that's it. Now, back in 2020, this was quite serious for me because I want to stick on here. So yeah, back in 2020, that was quite serious for me because they went after me, possession of offensive weapon. Now, I have already been convicted before for possession of an offensive weapon back when I was younger. Yeah. Having a fight and someone used a baseball, let's just say someone used a baseball bat and we all covered for each other and we all ended up getting, doing the whole plea bargain thing and pleading guilty to this one baseball bat. And yeah, so I had, like a fucking idiot, I accepted that deal. Yeah, man, just say guilty to owning this weapon and we'll make sure you won't go to prison. Like a fucking idiot, I said guilty to owning a weapon I didn't have to keep my brother out of prison. And yeah, so I've genuinely, on my criminal convictions, I've got possession of an offensive weapon. Now in the UK, if that happens again a second time, it's definitely prison time. It's 3 years. First time you can get off of it, the second time they do you for 3 years. So these scumbag cops, I think they pretty much did. They looked up my records And they thought, we'll get this fucker, innit? Because I was just stitching them up big time with the fact that I knew how to handle police, the fact that I wouldn't give them my name, the fact that I was so calm and cool and they weren't scaring me. That just wound these egotistical pricks up like crazy. And people say to me all the time, like, Les, man, not all policemen are wankers. Some policemen are all right. I don't know, man. In my experience, every policeman I've met has been a scumbag. They've met a certain archetype, a kind of Weasley archetype. Like they got I don't know, some sort of like, I don't know, there's something about them that there's almost a bit of autism to them as well. No offense to autistic people, but they can't seem to understand situations. They just look at things as in numbers, like an autistic person looks at the world. But anyway, we'll talk about that another day. But anyway, I fought it. I basically, proved that part of the beach, has got a driftwood, and loads of people go to that part of the beach and chop up wood. It's like a common thing there. It's this bit of the beach that has driftwood and people chop it up and make fires and stuff. So once I knew I was going to go to a jury, which I chose to, I was going to fight this, I had to submit my evidence. So I went to that part of the beach, took pictures of all the families and old people chopping up wood, because my car was parked there, and that's what I was going to do with the axe. I was going to chop up some wood during the lockdown, because the gyms were closed. I thought this would be a bit of fitness as part of cleaning up the beach as well. And funny enough, I used YouTube as a way to help me. Because basically, eventually when I had to give a statement, like why I was there, because I'd done no comment on the initial arrest. But later I said, I was going to go down there and make a YouTube video. They were basically like, why are you driving around with an axe? I was like, I was going to make a YouTube video about things you can do in a lockdown. It's like ways to keep fit, ways to stay out in nature, being out in the sun. And I had a whole kind of, on YouTube, I had like my history list. And I genuinely was looking at how to make videos on YouTube, how to monetize YouTube. I'd even bought a book on Audible, how to make money on YouTube in 2020. And that's really generally what I was thinking about doing. I took a load of kind of stuff there that I was basically thought, okay, this is my chance to make a YouTube video or make an entry onto YouTube and start doing shit on the beach. I also took some fucking training resistance bands. I had stuff in my car basically to do on the beach. I had like a little stove, camping stove. I thought you can cook on the beach. Basically, my whole thing is much what I preach now, like get out on the beach, get out in the sunshine, get out in nature. I even had a little tripod in my bag for, to put my iPhone on to film it all. And yeah, man. So anyway, YouTube kept me out of prison, basically. Once I submitted all that evidence, the Crown prosecution basically said, we're not going to go ahead with it. You're free to go. Bam. In many ways, I think that's my recommendation whenever you deal with scumbag police and you definitely know you have done nothing wrong. If you definitely know you've done nothing wrong and they're trying to prosecute you, always go for a jury as opposed to a magistrate's court. So in the UK, there's the option of the magistrate's court, which is 3 Muppet judges, just you and them, or you can go to a jury where you have 12 jury of your peer, right? 12 regular members of the public deciding whether you're guilty or not, and 1 judge. Now, the catch is, if you lose in jury, the punishment is way worse and you've got to pay the costs. That's how they try and scare you. Where in in a magistrate's court, they prosecute you there and then, but the punishment will be less because you haven't, kicked up much of a fuss and you haven't put much cost through. So that's how they scare you. They try and say, yeah, man, just go for a magistrate's court and just get a little tap on the wrist and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes if the crime's really serious, the magistrates won't deal with it anyway. It's like beyond them. So they'll palm it off to a jury. But from now on, As long as I know I've done nothing wrong and I deal with scumbag police, I'm always going to push for a jury. Because fuck it, why not? If you know you've done nothing wrong, fight it. And I learned that the hard way. I've now got, I think 5, you could say 4.5 criminal convictions, all because I took the easy route out and I backed down and I just said, yeah, fuck it, get it over with. Just give me a crime, I want to get on with my life. Now, and it fucks up, you know, luckily I'm self-employed, so it doesn't really bother me. But if I ever wanted to, say, be like a youth worker for like one evening a week, they'll just look at my criminal record and be like, nope. You know? So my advice to people is always fight it. If you've generally done nothing wrong and you're dealing with scumbag police. If you've done something wrong, now I don't know, it's a different story for a different time. Anyway, let's get on with this presentation. So yeah, the weather right now in the UK is pretty shitty. Really cold. Like I said, in the lockdowns when there was no planes in the sky, no pollution, we saw in my opinion, what the real UK weather is like, which is amazing. I live in the southwest of the UK, officially the hottest place in the UK. And, you know, in them lockdowns, man, it started in April. In fact, you know, what usually happens is a bit of a mini heat wave in March. People keep acting surprised when it comes, but it seems to always come. Cold for a little bit, then April, it would start. And then the summer, long sunny days, and temperature-wise, you can probably sunbathe up until October. That's how it was in the lockdowns. Now, with all these cheap flights in the sky, because I'm putting it forward out there that the vast majority of what people think is chemtrails, what people think is a, you know, secret government plane spraying bile, you know, barium and aluminum onto people's heads, creating them sick, is actually just regular fumes from jet fuel. I think in some ways they're telling the truth about that. They want you to, in your own head, make up this weird thing of, yeah, secret government planes, you know, with tankers filled in and they're spraying fucking cancer over you. They're putting that ideas in your head because that's the world they want you to live in. They're just using the illusion of this and that so you fucking live like that. And it doesn't matter whether it's true or not because you're believing it, therefore it is true. So I think, you know, as I said on Twitter the other day, like what I'm getting at is it's kind of a trade-off, right? And it's a bit of a loose trap as well, a loose circle. The trade-off is you want to fly, like over here in the UK, we got budget airlines. You want to fly to Spain for 15 quid? You want to fly to the south of France for 15 quid? You want to fly to Turkey for 15 quid? You know, you want to fly to Malta, Morocco, yeah, for 15 quid? Cyprus for 50 quid? Guess what? Everyone's going to be able to fly at that price and your skies are going to be shit. So what do you want? Do you want cheap flights to go have a week abroad? Or do you want to get your own weather back? You know? Me, if I had to make a choice, I would choose a long, good summer where I live at home as opposed to 1 week of sunshine being abroad. But like I said, I'm never going to have to make that choice because I don't think the masses would ever make that choice either. I think, you know, they're caught up in the loose trap, right? Because you've got shitty weather over here in the UK. You're poorly paid. You need a break from it. You're going to take that £15 trip to Istanbul. Yeah, you're going to partake in that system of polluting the skies. Yeah, it's not government, secret planes. It's just regular cheap, not even cheap, just airliners in general. And there might even be a longer play here where they kind of put it back, where we basically, or they say to us, look, what do you want? Nice clean skies or affordable travel? And they put it on us. And in many ways it is on us. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing. Godzilla and Kong, the new empire. Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. Right now, here in the UK, it's freezing. So, is there something going on here, right? So, spoiler alerts, I'm going to talk about these two films So if you haven't seen these two films, maybe you don't want to listen to this part. I don't know. I'm not saying you should go and see these films. They're not that profound. There's nothing great about them. They're pretty shitty in regards to films. But I take myself to the cinema every week when there's a new film out. I went and saw them both. But yeah, so I'm going to go through the storyline. So in this one, basically Godzilla and Kong, they have to, unite and fight the evil Kong that's living in the under earth or the inner earth. And this evil Kong, this red version of Kong, the Scar King, he somehow got control of this ice titan. This is not to scale, by the way. I think he's a bit bigger than Godzilla. But this ice titan, yeah, he can controlling the ice titan, and they're basically going to come up to the surface world and try and take over. And they're saying basically, yeah, the ice age that happened years ago, it's because this guy here, this ice titan, was running the earth back then. If you know the Godzilla Kong films, you'll know that Godzilla is the king of the monsters. He basically runs the upper earth, the earth we live on. He keeps all the other monsters in check. Kong, he's down in the inner earth, keeping that side of things in check. And they both coexist. He looks after the upper earth, he looks after the inner earth. They don't like each other, but they stay out of each other's way. But if he came up to the surface, he'd have to go and deal with him. If he went down to the inner earth, he'd have to deal with him. But anyway, they unite again, and they have to take out the bad Kong. And this guy's not bad, essentially, but he's under mind control. The red Kong has got some crystal thing that can control him. And yeah, they're basically saying, back when he was around, that's why the Ice Age was in. So anyway, let's go over to Ghostbusters. Pretty terrible film. But the theme is, there's this ice demon ghost that gets reawakened, right? He's a bit like a djinn in that he's trapped inside of a copper ball. And for whatever reason, I can't remember why, but he gets released or awoken. And once again, they're saying in this, yeah, remember that last ice age that the humans had, or the Earth had? Is because this guy had taken over. Yeah, like an ice djinn. So here we are, man, these ice themes and obviously Empire. If you've been following work, my whole thing is saying that the actual, whatever was running the British Empire is still around. It's not dead. It didn't die in World War II. It's still around. The British Empire, whatever was running it, the djinns that were running that, became the internet. The internet is the British Empire, point two. So Empire, Britain, freezing right now. There's something there maybe. I don't know. Yeah, man. Freezing right now. Be interesting to see what kind of summer we have. And yeah, man. Like, I don't know. Chemtrails. I don't really get into chemtrails. It's one of them things, unless I got hold of some kind of flying machine and I got to, on a regular basis, fly behind an aircraft and, somehow got samples of what was coming out behind it, I'm never really going to know whether they are genuinely chemicals being pumped out or whether it's just actual hot exhaust from the jets, engines hitting cold air. Maybe that's all it takes to create a cloud on a certain day, and that cloud is all it takes to fuck up the weather. We live in a twilight world. There are no friends at dusk.